I'm now calling the meeting to order at 7:34. Madam Deputy Clerk, please call the roll.
Supervisor Eisenberg,
Here,
Clerk Owens,
not here.
Trustee Casale McNally,
Here.
Trustee Moser,
Here.
Trustee Robbins.
Here.
Trustee Rubin,
Here.
Assessor Churchwell.
Here.
Great, we have a quorum for business. We will now stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Supervisor's report brief. We were out of office so many times. We've been watching our pilot program on the mini food pantry with the Winnetka libraries. We had a meeting with them to discuss kind of operations. We have not seen it become self-sustaining yet, but we are hopeful. So when it does run out of food, they've been sending an email and we just run over with some more staples. The hope is that it is getting word out about our services to those who need it, who use the library as a refuge during the day, either because they're looking for services for youth, for instance, or the computer lab, or for AC heating, depending on the timing, right? We know that libraries have also become a refuge for mental health issues. So we want people to come in so they can be screened for services, and hopefully we can replicate this once it becomes self-sustaining. They also showed us their very cool maker lab, which if you have not been down there, it's amazing. So no more use of Etsy. You can make everything yourself, everything. So there will be a lot of etched glass in my future. So we had our township agency lunch for the first check, so you'll see that reflected. Very exciting. Stephen did a great job. As always, keeping it entertaining and light. This year's theme, quarter's theme, right? What do you, trimester? Trimester, whatever, was food. So everybody gave their recommendations for restaurants in the township. There were some clear winners amongst the Pomeroy Sophia group, but I'll send out the whole list if you're interested. But yes, we've got amazing food in the township and people are appreciating. And yeah, we've just been having a lot of meetings with constituents and government officials, and dealing with some concerns related to the building. I didn't really go into detail on them on your report. We did have some need to work with the village of Winnetka pretty extensively over the last couple of weeks. Apparently we have 2 meters in our building, electric meters. And though our solar panels are set for the big meter, because that's what you want to use, you want to offset your electrical output, they were installed on the smaller meter, which we have no idea why exists. But only has like a
Very small.
the hot water heater was originally in, and they've put a couple things on it since, but it was meant for the hot water heater because it was a different rate, we think. Either way, they are both near each other in the same room, but they should have been pretty obvious, I think.
It's not on my report because it's so lengthy. Honestly, I'm still talking about this with them, even as of today. They're gonna come out and do the work so that our solar panels work correctly and install a bidirectional meter, which is how we get onto the solar panel program. All in all, there was just a lot of miscommunication between the village and the solar panel company. The permitting was done, but things on the village end were not correct. It was just basically a mess, but they're coming out to fix it. But we still have to worry about the issue of combining the small meter with the large meter and get a cost on that from the electrician once I get past this fix.
Right, so that's amongst the mysteries of the building that we learn about. Larisha did also flag the one about why do we have a boiler?
Yeah,
So many a question, but as we discover them, we get rid of things that aren't necessary. So we will continue to do that.
Can we pass the cost on of the electrician to the village for having 2 meters?
So, I mean, on that, I can't. Like, that's, I mean, I'm sure that's something someone did purposely because of this different rate issue. Back in the day.
It's on our actual water bill. The meter for the smaller meter is on the water bill. The larger load is on its own bill, which is the reason why I never noticed that we had 2 meters.
Yeah.
Because the water bill one stands alone. There's a very small water, electric
just like
water
part of the
meter in
water
back.
But wouldn't the village have been involved erroneously in setting up the, in somehow or another allowing for the solar panel energy to be hooked up to the smaller meter when it should have been hooked up to the bigger meter to offset the bigger?
So we had a final inspection, which apparently is not the final inspection, and that was the issue.
So the village really never came back out. But I will say the village was here so many times over this process in the last year, as was the solar panel people. So we had a meeting last week. It's just basically a spinning wheel, and we just had to come to the conclusion that we just need it fixed because we need that credit back on our bill.
So I did appreciate the village is willing to essentially credit us for the incorrect billing. Yes, so as you know, every time I get the bills every month. I said, we should be going down on our bill, not up.
Yeah.
And that is how this whole process started. So. So, because it does show you, year over year, and I was really excited, and it was not exciting.
Yeah, the loan is coming back onto our bill as a debit and not as a credit, if that makes sense.
Yes, because
The energy has nowhere to go.
Yeah. So apparently there's like a fail safe put onto these meters so that you can't turn them backwards. So instead it just keeps going forwards. So you can't, so it's a smart concept, but it has been not to our benefit here. So yes, we're working on it. It will be fixed. It's just been, thank you to Larisha for a lot of, time dealing with this. And we'll continue to work with our partners, to get it fixed. Yeah. Any questions on supervisor's report? All the excitement. Wonderful. Okay. We have draft minutes before you from June 11th, 2024. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
I will just grab that. You got it? Moser first. One sec, I just printed it down so we can get this. Second,
For a second.
Roberts.
Okay.
Okay, any discussion?
Page 2, there's a typo under the assessor's report, there's a second period.
Yes, there is.
Page 3, 2 lines above the motion to adjourn, my last name is spelled incorrectly.
On what page?
On page 3. My name is spelled wrong. N-A.
Okay.
Any additional edits? Being none. All those in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, they have been approved as amended. Okay. The clerk's report, our clerk is not here, so I have a motion to table the clerk's report.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Wonderful. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. And unopposed, seeing none. Financial report, James Howard, I will give you the. Hopefully we'll give you the reins. We might not be. We're having some issues over here, so James, you might not be able to stay. But we will walk through it. That was me sharing. Yeah, yep. We had trouble getting in on the super account. So if you can just walk through it as we walk through it.
Yeah, absolutely. Good evening, everybody. Let's go through the 4 months ended June 30th, again, 33% of the way through our fiscal year. We're gonna start with just, some revenue highlights again, property taxes, we've received 55%, 1.9 million. Budget is 3.5, tax bills are timely this year, so that's good news for us. Does offer us an opportunity to reinvest more on our managed side, which Ed is there to talk about that portfolio tonight. So that's kind of a bright spot. Replacement taxes, that's gonna be down. Remember, the state recoups some of that money. We're at 30% of that budget at 28,000. Again, that comes in about 8 times a year. So nothing too concerning about the budget number, just to know that we are gonna be receiving less than we did last year. Interest is the bright spot. Again, we're already at 82% of that budget on about 41,000 collected there. So again, I think we still have a really good opportunity. I know Ed will speak to the Fed holding rates, and so the short-term safe investments in the portfolio have been really gaining nice traction. We're over 5% on a lot of those. So that's really good news for the township. Some smaller dollars just for passport fees. We're already at 36% and about 11,000 collected there, so that's good. And our other income category at 100. Just north of 2 million on revenues collected to date, so 3.7 million is the budget. We're at 55%, pretty much in line with where the property tax number is. So we look into some expenditure items. Again, a lot of green in terms of where we are in the year and our percent of budget. Most of our categories are at that or below that mark. Agency programs is at 34%. Again, a lot of those payments just went out. You can see childcare services, that's slightly north of that, 33% at 44% on about 75,000 spent there. And then, some additional items, contractual services at 46%. So a little north of where we are in the year. Usually that's timing of payouts. And some of that may be related to the building. Building town hall expenses at 55%, financial assistance 42%, and then everything else is at 33% or below. And we're right on the number in terms of our total. About 1.3 million spent, 3.8 million is the budget. So we're on where we are in the year, exactly 33%. 735,000 right now is the surplus. Again, as we get the next installment of property taxes, that'll be, where we're kind of top heavy, where we've got all our tax money in, but we're going to be spending that down over the remaining months of the fiscal year. So we started with 1.8 million. We're about 2.6 million right now in ending fund balance. And again, remember, we strategically designed our budget to continue to draw down some of those GA funds and increase the town fund, just to be within best practice as well as avoid tax objection. And then next page, as you look at the distribution, property taxes make up 96% of the pie, replacement tax 1.4, interest 2, passports 0.5, other 0.1. And then on the expenditure side, agency programs are at 42%, childcare 6, projects 8, contractual services 7.5, assessor 2, building town hall at 5. We've got financial assistance about 11.5%, pantry 4. Personnel 12, elected officials 1. Again, we look good with revenues over expenditures. Again, that's 4 months in on our first property tax installment. And then I won't go down, you can see a lot of those project numbers, or I'm sorry, agency programs at 33% at those, as those payments went out in May, I believe, or June, I should say. So those numbers look good. And then just down to the investments. And again, I know Ed's there, so he can speak to a lot of this, but you can see about 2.6 million across all funds. We do have a really good opportunity, though, given taxes are on time this year. We can make, kind of a recommendation to the board. I think we'd be right there in about, 600,000 to move over to Sora Faldudo on the town side, and probably about, 250,000 on the GA side. That would take us to right around $1 million for the town invested and managed for us, and probably close to about 800,000 for GA. But outside of that, again, the report looks good, a third of the way through. And again, taxes being on time, that's really helpful. As you know, they've been late the last 2 years. So, but at this point, I'd be happy to take any other questions you might have.
Again, James, what were the recommendations in terms of how much to move over for the GA and how much for the town?
Yeah, I think, we could do 600,000, I think, for town and about 250 for GA. And again, right now, our money market account for the town fund at BMO's at 1.1 million. And for GA, our money market account is at 408,000.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any discussion on those recommendations?
Can we go backwards for a second and, page 5 of 9, where it's discusses the expenses or looks like the expenses. Why is Glencoe Youth Services higher than the rest? Is it 41.09 as opposed to 33.33 for everybody else?
Do we fix the entry in Outlook? I mean, not Outlook,
I gave it to Tim to fix, but we did have to fix the budget a little bit. For Glencoe Youth Services programs, so that may be why it's showing as higher there.
but let's look into that.
Okay.
Okay, services at 44. Additional comments? Okay, oh, please.
Sorry. To the degree that we need to take any money to deal with the survey that we are doing of the township at the moment, where would that money come from?
POTS, projects of township significance.
Are you talking about the decennial survey?
No,
Or outreach, to be honest, we rarely use our outreach budget, and if you're gonna have like, focus groups, things like
Right.
that would be an appropriate use.
yeah. So it's not the decennial stuff. This is, with relation to, we put a survey in the field on our social media about, what do you know about the township? What do you not know about the township? And it's my suspicion is that we are going to need to make an investment to actually do this in a more fulsome way, as opposed to getting whoever follows us already to, kind of be an echo chamber to us. And to the degree that we wanted to go down that avenue, I wanted to see if we have anything set aside as we are discussing, putting money in investment.
To do what?
To actually engage a group or a company who knows what they're doing in terms of surveying a broader populace to get you what you need to know rather than what you want to hear.
Okay.
What we need to know about the awareness or lack of awareness of the township.
And how to fix it. We have not in a fulsome way done strategic planning in a very long time.
Right.
And right now we have a survey in the field that's, had 100 some odd, responses. But my concern is that if we need, just in the context of this, it's a larger conversation. But in the context of this, I wanted to just make sure that we have money and or are setting aside money if we decide to go down a route of talking to a group or an agency that could help us be thoughtful about this in a more holistic sense.
And if you recall, we, have had discussions in the past about, how, my participation a couple years ago with Northfield strategic planning process. And I believe they spent $40,000 on that, and personally, I can't recommend that.
I agree.
So to me, I'm not overly worried about it being statistically valid survey. I'm more concerned about getting a gestalt. And with the knowledge that we are going to be we would be pushing our numbers towards those who have some knowledge and using that and just as a reminder that we probably have more work than what the survey will show. right? So just a recognition of its lack of scientific ness.
The issue of the knowledge of the township has been an issue since I've been around. So it's been on the table forever. And how to fix it, the conclusion generally has been over the years that people find out about the township when they need it.
That's the hope, right?
Well, that seems to be the trend, but we've addressed this multiple
I know.
times. Maybe spending a bunch of money would help, I'm not sure it would, but it's come up constantly.
And it only tells us what people do or do not know. It does not tell us what I wanna know, which is where should we be spending our money strategically, right? So
Well,
I wanna know, is our population aging? Do we have more young families coming in? Do we need more childcare scholarships? And that's the information that we've been able to gather from publicly available sources. And that I've asked Melanie to gather from other people's research, because why reinvent the wheel if they've all spent $40,000 on their research? And, you know,
This will come up in the context of the discussion about the Decennial Committee as well.
Did Northfield find the 40K investment helpful, worthwhile?
I mean, it's a pretty report.
It has been guiding them as they have daily, things on their walls, literally on their walls about, here's, this is what we've learned. This is the direction in which we're moving to best respond to the needs that have come up over this process. It was incredibly thorough. It took them the better part of a year. It took them a long time to do. But it's, to the, I didn't mean to sidetrack us, I apologize, but I just wanted to have a consideration. As we were discussing, the finances of the township, to see if that money exists, to do, whatever we need to do, so.
I think if we needed to raise 40,000 and we all agreed that it was money well spent, that would not be a huge issue.
I won't. So, yes, and that's one of the reasons why we hired Melanie was to do this. So, and she knows that that's the expectation, and we've had discussions about it hadn't been on her forefront, and obviously she had a lot of, coming up to speed on the communication side. So we're hopeful that this will become a priority.
For what it's worth, I think James' recommendations in terms of the numbers he laid out in terms of transferring this Sawyer Faldudo, I think those are reasonable recommendations. I don't think that they're in any way excessive, and we get another 850 under control that could yield in the 4 to 5+% range. We're being good stewards of the taxpayer money. I agree with those recommendations.
Wonderful.
I disagree.
Do you want a motion for?
Yeah, let's do a motion, and we can have additional discussion.
I would move to transfer 600 to Sawyer Faldudo for the town fund and 250 to Sawyer Faldudo for the GA fund. In accordance with, or in alignment with James's recommendations.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion.
I don't agree at all. I think that you're doing what we were trying to avoid in the first place, which is putting all our eggs in one basket. That's one of my criticisms. Also, you still think you can get 5%? Because 5% is not out there right now.
I could buy, right now, I could buy a 3-month treasury that annualizes,
3-month treasury.
3 months. I
How
could
about
buy,
a year or 2 years?
for 1 year is at 503 right now, US Treasury.
Okay,
I walked out of the office, I could lock that in.
but they're going down. Would you agree with that?
Slightly. They have not moved appreciably here in the last 2 to 3 weeks. The expectation is longer term, and I find that by 2 to 3 months, they will probably go down.
Okay. I just think it's a bad idea to put it all in one place, or most of it. And I like the fact that we have diversification of our portfolio and we use different institutions. And I've always taken that position, and this isn't a new position for me at all, but that's gonna be my position going forward.
I feel that the numbers that James recommended are about half of the liquidity we have with more money coming in. And I think that Sawyer Faldudo is now established clearly over the last year that they are doing a great job compared to where we were. compared to what BMO was offering us at Northern, what our banks were offering to us. I think that they've really helped us become better financial stewards for the taxpayers, and we're pretty liquid, Steph, and this collectively with these suggestions on top of what we have, there would be more than percentage-wise than we've had there ever, but it still would leave us a lot of liquidity.
I don't question their skills and what they've accomplished. I take the position that we need a diversified portfolio. I wish we had more diversity, to be honest with you. Yeah, I think that that's where we could get tripped up. So I'm not gonna change my opinion on that. Okay?
I think I would like to bring your thoughts into this, because I think there's a misunderstanding. I mean, within the portfolio you're managing, our money is in various,
It's diversified.
right?
I
It's
understand.
diversified maturity, it's diversified by asset class. We use US treasuries, US agencies, certificate deposit, we'll use purchase money market fund, which is yielding about 5% right now. So we've got diversification across that as well.
That's not my point. It's not that you guys don't diversify a portfolio. I recognize that you do. It's the fact that we're putting a good percentage of our money in one institution. And that's right, that's what I have objections to, because we don't know that you're gonna be around next month or next year.
So maybe I'll address that. So specifically though, all your assets are custody with Charles Schwab. Those accounts are all in your name. So we can go away tomorrow. We win the lottery, all those assets are still yours, all with Charles Schwab.
Okay.
So you-
Well,
Or US Treasury.
You have one manager, what you meant to say, Stefan, is we're putting it with one manager, but it's with multiple
I
institutions.
understand that,
And
but
multiple instruments. And we have one manager that, like he suggested, could come and go. It's,
he just said that the majority of the assets are at Charles Schwab. So if that's the case, maybe they're not the primary holder, but then it is sitting with one institution as the primary holder. That's all. I mean, and also, it's a lot different, Elliot, to have money sitting in banks versus using an institutionalized investor. And that's why the returns are that much better. And I recognize that, but the returns have been decent in our other accounts. They're not what they're getting us. They've 2.5%, 3.5% is decent compared to 0.5% we used to get. But Elliot, again, I'm not gonna change.
So your so the Schwab account's insured higher than any bank account will be, so it's higher than the FDIC limits.
that's important.
I get all that. I do.
I just-
I do.
Any additional discussion? Seeing none, we'll call the question on the motion, because it's got money. We're gonna call a roll call vote.
Supervisor Eisenberg,
Yes.
trustee Casal McNally,
Yes.
trustee Moser,
No,
trustee Robbins,
Yes,
trustee Rubin,
Yes.
Motion carries. Leads us to the verification of claims. Trustee Moser.
I would like approval of the town fund expenditures from June 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2024, as reflected in tonight's financial report as presented today, the 9th day of July, 2024.
Is there a second?
second,
Any discussion? Being none, Madam Deputy Clerk, please call the roll.
supervisor Eisenberg,
Yes.
trustee Casal McNally.
Yes.
Trustee Moser,
Yes.
trustee Robbins.
yes.
Trustee Rubin.
Yes.
Thank you. I have it. All right, investment reports.
All right, good evening again, Ed Lavin, Historical News, pleasure to be back with you. I provided a hard copy for everybody. This is the same format that we send to you every month, so even months we don't come here, we're sending this report forward to you, so. Maybe I'll start with some good news, even though James stole some of my thunder. I would say this, that I wish all clients had the timing that you did. So our relationship spans just about 15 months now, going back to April of 2023. You really picked a high point for the type of portfolio that you have here. So short-term, high-quality securities. We've been able to invest your funds at multi-year highs. So again, we're talking about that 5% number. I did a quick look going back over the tenor of our relationship. All three of your funds put together have an investment gain in excess now of $70,000. So with that being said, I'm going to ask you to turn to page 2 of 18 here in your hard copy. And I'd say that, we've kind of touched on this, but the way it's organized is exactly how you've been talking about here. You have the angel funds, the GA funds, and the town funds. So Not only is it represented separately here in the reports, that's how it is in our system, and that's how you have it at your Schwab Bank, Schwab accounts, the brokerage accounts. The report for each of the funds, the Angel, the GA, and the Town Fund is laid out exactly the same way, so it's not my thought that I would take you through each of those. I'll take you through one as an example, but would certainly invite any questions you might have. And again, I'd have to go through all of it if you like, but just an example, I'm gonna use the Angel Fund, so starting on page 3 here. As I discussed, you know, when we have the opportunity and what your mandate is, it's 0 to 1 year investments, high quality. So you wanna be able to sleep at night and not have to worry about, is my money gonna be there? And so with that being said, what we're gonna employ is US Treasuries, US agencies, money market fund, and specifically, and I'll talk about the second, a money market fund. That's a treasury money market fund. It's a government money market fund, meaning the underlying securities of the US Treasury and government agencies are very high quality. And then we'll also use some institutional certificates of deposit. We would never put more than $250,000 in any one of those again, because that's the insurance limit.
And, can I ask you,
Yeah, absolutely.
either the GA or the Town Fund as an example?
Yeah, absolutely, let's do that.
Yes, we've separated out the Angel Fund.
So let's move to
So,
page 8 of 18, please. So we'll look at the GA fund here. Again, the pie chart's the same, but this one does have certificate of deposit. And when you look at the next section, there's labeled cash flow review. We can look at the year to date, for example, or we'll look at inception to date here. That's on the far right column. So again, you see that the relationship goes back to the beginning of April of 23. Originally funded this account with $500,000. If you drop to the very bottom line there, you can see the investment gain on this is $29,000. So your ending market value is $529,087. The section here below, talks about projected income. So one of the things I like to emphasize when I have a portfolio like yours is liquidity. If you called me tomorrow and said, I need, in this case, 40, 50, 80, $100,000, whatever the case may be, we can get you that money that literally the next day. Put it in, we'd be able to transfer it to you. So everything we're going with is highly, highly liquid. So sell it today, we have the cash tomorrow, it'd be ready to go, type of thing. With that being said, though, when you look here at projected income, this is what we like to include in the report. Just give you a sense for the type of, this is physical cash that's being received. So the actual interest income coupons that are being received. And it looks at over a 4-quarter horizon. So it's essentially a year. And from an income perspective, cash in the door of this portfolio, this is without any reinvestment or anything like that. This is like, if I let the portfolio just go, you're gonna get another $19,000 in the door with that. And then below that, you see the projected income and maturity. So this gives you perspective now as securities mature, plus the interest, how much cash do I have to work with? Whether you have some new needs here from a business perspective, or just put the money to work here. And then over the course of, you just look over the next quarter here that we're in, quarter 3, 2024 at the bottom here. We're gonna have 2 maturities plus the interest income. So it's $131,000 to put to work. And so we always structure the portfolio, what we describe as a laddered portfolio. We never want it all coming due on the same day or same week. That would be a lot of reinvestment risk. I mean, you could do really well, or you could do very poorly. So we always want to kind of diffuse that risk if we can. And we're gonna, have the maturities across the spectrum of time. But that notwithstanding, it's a good news front for you that we're talking about here. And I brought some of the yields with me I'm looking at. Funds like yours and very similar mandates like that, we've been fortunate that be able to put this work, if I'm looking at my last time, 3-month securities yielding, I'm gonna call that 536, 6-month securities, 529, the 1 year I mentioned, that's 503. Once you get out to 2 year, now you're at about 4.6, but your mandate doesn't allow for 2-year investments. We're only allowed based on the agreement we have with you to invest out to a year. So, so from that perspective, that's really, again, multi-year is high. We're having this discussion 2.5 years ago. We're talking about numbers 1 to 2%. It would have been much, much lower. If you look at page 9 of 18 here, to give you a quick snapshot of what the performance history is, kind of takes that investment gain and allocates it back to the quarters. You can see your inflows, outflows, and what the ending values were for each of those respective quarters going back to the inception of our relationship. Page 10 of 18 takes a look at the fixed income securities for a moment, and all of your securities here, 100% of them are going to come due here in 2024. So really over the next couple of months, again, gives us an opportunity to put that money back to work. And you can see on the bottom there, if you look at the column labeled yield to maturity at cost. So that's when we buy a security. If we hold that to maturity, that's what we're locking in. So in your case here, it's a combined 5.2%. Is what we were able to lock in these securities. So again, if you buy a security and hold it, what you pay for it at time 0, that's what you're locking in. And that's why I'd be hopeful we'll be able to continue to lock in here, at least for the near term. Page 11, this provides a serial listing of the actual securities. Starts there on top of the US Treasuries. You can see that first one's coming due at the end of the year, 12/31/24. The one below that, 2 months prior, 2.5 months prior, the 2/15. Below that, you get the certificate of deposits. We've got one there that's coming due later this month. And then in terms of the agency coming due in the 8th of 22 August. So again, trying to spread it out, ensure that to the extent that you ever cash flow needs, we've got cash available for you. The absent that, we're gonna go ahead and continue to put that money to work. In the bottom section here too is it's a cash equivalent I mentioned before. These are money market funds. These are very high quality funds. You've got a government and a treasury here. Really the difference, it's about, one's yielding 4.9%, one is 5%. The one yielding 4.9, if you called me and said, I need $71,000 right now today, that's what we would hit right there. That's available immediately. The next one would have, it's a 1-day turnaround. We have to sell that actually to get it. So that's why we maintain a little bit of both, to give you ultimate flexibility to the extent something were to happen on the side. And then the last page for this particular account, the GA fund, that shows you, this is just a 1-month view for the month of June. This shows you any physical cash flows that happen in the account here. So you can see some income being credited to the account twice here, one for 316 and another for just almost $1,200.
What are your fees indicated and how much are they?
Our fees are, we only charge quarterly. I would have to look at our fees. I think we just charged in July here. I'll follow up, I'll send you the exact fees.
Any sense of it?
Pardon me?
Any sense of it?
It's very competitive. It's gonna be low.
Under 1%?
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
way under 1%.
Okay.
Way under 1%.
Negligible. I would say excellent presentation and thank you for being so diligent in taking care of these precious funds. $70,000 is not hay in terms used by financial advisors all the time. Just give us a sense, Supervisor Eisenberg, what we've spent for the wonderful Oakton scholarships over the last couple of years.
We did $40,000 in Oakton scholarships, and then this year we endowed it, if you recall.
And that was another commitment.
We did $100,000.
So
So then going forward, we will not be appropriating for it.
theoretically, the
If you
70,000.
want to, but we.
But theoretically, just to compare numbers, 70,000 is the equivalent of half of our funding for this one scholarship program. And I would submit to you that based on the rates that we were getting from the banks, that the yield would have been somewhere in the $10,000 or $20,000 range as opposed to 70,000. It was nominal. It was embarrassingly low. So this is wise. This is good stewardship. We have to be good stewards. I almost wish that we had started with Sawyer a little bit earlier than we did, but fortunately, better late than never.
I'll look up the fees while we're speaking, but I appreciate those kind of words.
So
I'll look those up now. Well,
Thank you.
so we bill quarterly, so it's just July 1st off the June 30th balances. So, but I'll let you know.
So I'll let you take a look at that unless there's any other questions.
No, have to take any other questions though?
And otherwise I will let Shan have the mic. All right, Shan, you're up.
Okay, I sent a report out shortly before 7, which I'm sure most of you didn't even have a chance to look at, much less digest. James also stole, of course, a piece of my thunder by telling you that the tax bills went out on time for the first time in 3 years. But from our perspective, rather than just from the collection point of view, people like, just simply the stability of knowing when something is due, having the space between the first bill and the second bill that they're used to. So even though people were a bit shocked when the bills actually hit their mailboxes, they were pleased about the timing of it. And it looks as though the assessor's office is coming up better, getting people's exemptions back into place on their bills, exemptions and freezes, so that they are getting correct tax bills to begin with. The other things, mainly the county assessor finished up with us, certified our results in late June. So we are ready to open to the Board of Review whenever they are ready for us, which I think will probably be sometime in August. So we will complete both of our appeal cycles within a calendar year, which by the same token as having the schedule for the tax bills on time, people here have been used to having both our appeal sessions finished within a calendar year, which actually has nothing to do with the tax cycle timing, but confuses the heck out of everybody when we run over a calendar year, because they keep thinking, how can I pay my taxes when I don't even know, what my assessed value is yet? Because they forget, of course, that the taxes that they are paying are for the previous year, not for the year of the appeal. Excuse me. Oh, and the report also includes the office activity statistics for the first 2 quarters, so the first 6 months of calendar 24. And the sales and permit statistics were not yet all available and will come whenever they come. So that's pretty much, that was the highlights.
And something got a little mucked up with the office
Oh.
activity. Is there any chance that you could resend that, so it's?
Yeah, sure. I forgot, I didn't think about PDFing it. I can do that.
That'd be great. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Thanks. Sorry about that.
We're now in line for public comment. Yes.
Ready,
Oh, and an answer.
you're ready.
Yes, I'm seeing none. We're back to you.
So for the quarter, which just ended, well, I'm looking at April, so we charged a total of $602 across all three, that's collected for all 3 accounts. So annualized, that's $2,400. Across your investment base, that's 20 basis points, roughly. So it's a fifth of 1%.
Good bang for our buck. I think so.
And again, I'm looking, so for January, we charge the same thing, so probably off by $1 or $2 because the account value changes, but 600, maybe $5.99, but it's right there.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Okay. Designation of whistleblowing auditing official, trustee Casale McNally.
So in connection with our decennial committee responsibilities, I am on the statutory and government compliance committee. And one of the things that I have been reviewing is ILCS. And as it turns out, we need to have an official who would receive any complaints that they are being retaliated against due to being a whistleblower. It is, kind of one of the requirements of the section so that they can avail themselves of the protections under the code. I've already discussed it with him, and Jerome would be kind of the natural person as the clerk to hold this role. Because it is an official designation, it needs to be something that we discuss and vote upon in one of our regular board meetings. So it's my roundabout way of saying that I would like to make a motion that Jerome, in his capacity as the clerk of New Trier Township, be designated as the whistleblower auditing official pursuant to 50 ILCS 105/4.1.
Is there a second?
So seconded.
Discussion. So as you know, he's currently designated for our other statutory roles, so it makes a lot of sense. He's obviously independent of both, Jan's side of the office, or I guess, level of the office, second floor, in our downstairs, so it makes a lot of sense. Any additional discussion?
I had a question. Does this motion have to be specific to Jerome, or can we make a motion that this is part of the clerk's role for all time?
I do not know that.
I am doing some reading, what's that?
My suspicion is that it has to be done by the person. Which then would mean that every time, it needs to be kind of an ongoing thing that we're cognizant of as a board. That anytime there is a new clerk, that we reevaluate this. but I don't know that we can make it an official part of the duties of a particular elected official. Do you know?
Also, isn't Jerome our FOIA?
Yes, he is, but that's again, something that we had to,
We did
Vote
vote
on.
on to,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so as used in this section, auditing official means any elected, appointed, or hired individual by whatever name in a unit of local government whose duties are similar to but not limited to receiving, registering, and investigating complaints. And then it says if we don't designate someone, it automatically the state's attorney.
Okay, have you discussed with Jerome?
yes, yeah, is with them. And he agrees that it's a natural kind of offshoot of his other kind of designated responsibilities there.
Let me just, it would certainly be easy enough to do it for right now,
Mhm.
under Jerome's name, and then do as we've done in the past, which is whoever holding the clerk, we appoint on the FOIA officer,
Right.
et cetera, et cetera.
I think, it was just because this is the first time we're doing it, that, it made sense that it would be an official kind of act of the board.
Yes, and does look like this has been relatively recently revised.
Yeah.
So, okay. Any additional discussion? Being none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of appointing Jerome as our, hold on, let me read the title. Designated auditing official, please say aye.
Sorry, whistleblower auditing official.
Whistleblower auditing official. Please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
So that, we can cross another one off of our list. Okay. Decennial committee questions?
Yeah, I put on the agenda, I'm on two different committees. We have both met, one not in person, but the other one in person twice. What I really wanna know is, what do we do with what we found out?
Right,
And how do we give that information to you? And also, it relates to the fact that you were saying earlier about putting money into the survey. We sent emails to 30 agencies to ask where we could improve the efficiencies of the township.
right.
And maybe 4 or 5 wrote back, period, and said, you're doing a great job and we wouldn't change anything. We like the fact that you're becoming more electronic by the day.
Wonderful.
That was the feedback. So then we were discussing it amongst ourselves, and the question came up, do we want to do a more formal inquiry and spend money to do the inquiry? And that's where we left it. So at this point, on one of the committees, I'll get to the other one in a second, on the committee on not-for-profits, we have the responses, as I said, from 4 or 5 different agencies, didn't give us any substance at all. And I don't know quite what to do with that material, or I don't know quite what we should do going forward. That's one committee. The other committee, I think, just by the nature of it, has been more successful. Elliot's on it with me. We've had very successful meetings, but we've only got really 3 different agencies that we're dealing with, which are the 3 youth agencies, putting per jury aside for the moment and putting the question of whether we're gonna include teens in the township board or what have you. Putting those aside, as to the agencies themselves, we've made some headway. Harbor's been great. They want to open up a new facility in Winnetka if they can pull it off.
Haven.
I'm sorry, Haven, my mistake. And they're gung ho on helping us out with our youth agencies, including, as I said, opening something new in Winnetka. That's the report, but I don't know. Do you want
Right, so
email? What are
so
you
the-
looking for?
the reports from the working groups, which are expressly not committees, are to be reported at the open decennial meeting, which is September 25th.
Okay, so Then my
We
question,
kind of called ourselves an ad hoc committee.
Well, ad hoc committee would still be
Yeah,
subject
you
to
can't
open
do that.
meetings.
That's
Investigative committee,
Investigative group.
can't have the word.
investigative group, oh, the word,
Can't have committee.
okay, well, I gotta take my OMA training, investigative.
You're not taking any actions, right?
We're certainly not taking actions, we're
Right.
simply gathering and
Exactly. Gathering,
investigating.
investigating.
I made that very clear in all my.
Exactly. So yes, so the idea is for each of those to report back at the open meeting to make
Okay,
their recommendations, and which we will vote upon their inclusion in the committee, in the report.
so that gets to my point. One committee, a lot of material, the other one, nothing. And the question is, do you want us to go further?
I mean, I would, if I were you in that situation, I'd have Steve push it out again. Like, you don't just leave
Well,
it
you
out
didn't
once.
push it out. You-
I'm saying have him try, have him to do one, right? Sometimes you gotta try again.
As the person who like has a lot of contact with those individuals, you know, he could pick up the phone and just say, hey, listen, we're really trying to actually get some information here.
Yeah.
You know, I
Let's have
mean,
an intern.
my kid
Yeah.
loves me too when I'm giving them allowance. So,
Exactly.
you know, it would be really great to, you know, kind of, you know, have a, you know, different perspective. So.
Especially since he will be sending out shortly the applications for next year, right? They usually go up in July, so he'll be sending out emails saying it's open and then saying, fill this out.
Well, there wasn't anything to fill out. We didn't send it.
Oh,
We didn't send a
just
survey.
asking them for.
We just sent it.
That works too, just like, please respond with, yeah,
Right.
but it'll be an email they will open, right?
So.
If it's
I
coming
should
from
call
Steve about money.
tomorrow and put him on this?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
All right.
And just to address one of the things you said initially, Stephen, I think what Kate was talking about earlier hypothetically was more of an inquiry with our constituents, with the voters, as to what they're aware of with township as opposed to our agencies.
Well, I agree.
Well, it's actually, it's everything, you know, you know, but agencies would be part of it. But, you know, there are a lot more constituents in their agencies, right? So.
And the concern is that our agencies know all about the township and what we bring to the table. Now, our constituents,
If
maybe,
it's an apple and oranges, I knew what
Yeah,
Kate said.
absolutely,
I'm
yeah.
talking about a different animal.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that in the same sense that
It's,
you want.
yeah,
to
you're thinking.
We also
we're
have
thinking-
we have an intern this summer too, so, like, you know. Where the intern, we had the same issue with the intergovernmental survey. I've had her calling them all saying, please answer the survey. So, you know,
how
we're paying her,
onerous,
so.
do you have any sense of how onerous the report is gonna be on you? I mean, how?
I mean,
you
I've
know,
been working on it for months, so little by little, right?
Little
So,
by little. Yeah, because have you said to us that you want us to try to write that section of the report?
right.
We could probably.
Because ultimately it'll be, we'll take your recommendations and we
Yes.
will vote on them for being included, right?
So remember that, you know, townships are not the only groups that are, you know,
Right.
supposed to be doing this decennial committee stuff.
Every
So-
unit of government.
Right, exactly. So, you know, down to your libraries. So, you know, I was on that, and the way that Illinois was handling that is that there is an Illinois Library Association. They did a form version, and that, you know, you could, you know, the libraries all kind of worked within that form.
So they have
So
a
the problem
template
is,
for
yeah.
what the, do you?
And I started with the template.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the problem becomes that this is an unfunded mandate. It's the first time we're giving this a shot. We're gonna see what happens with it. So, you know, who knows if we ever are asked to do this again, but we've got to give it our best shot.
Yeah.
The
And it's
policy.
nice, it'll look good, you know, we're doing something we should be doing anyway, which is assessing our strengths and weaknesses.
In the original legislation, the intent behind this was to get us to try to figure out how we could X units of our own government.
And thankfully, the bill that would have forced
Required.
the counties to do so did not pass. But got pretty close, so. Arbitrarily. Any additional discussion? Decennial Committee. All right, continue plugging along. New business, the service provider agreement with the Angel Fund, this is version 2. Back in better form, from what was the prior version. Obviously, it's a strange situation because as township supervisor, I am president of Angel Fund. So I would, and that's, you know, by bylaws, so I'd ask that, you know, I not vote on the service agreement. That said, there was a request to know about how many hours Jean spends on Angel Fund, and obviously there's a lot, it's hard for her to really say like something is Angel Fund versus registering someone for the food pantry versus, right, because it's the same individuals, right? A client for a social service program may also be getting Angel Fund. She estimates about 5 hours a week. So if you were to take her salary, divide by 52, divide by 40, times by 5, multiply back by 52, you get about $10,000. So
What was your number?
$10,000. And now I will allow you to do anything you want.
I'm also a member of the Angel Fund Board, so I'm not sure it's appropriate for me to.
But you are expressly on that board to represent the interests of the township,
Okay,
right?
that being said, I have a couple issues. One is you went from $1 to 1,000, right? From $1 rent to 1,000, wasn't the first one $1?
No, the first one was 1,000,
Was it?
but it was that placeholder that I put in.
Alright.
Yeah.
My bigger question is,
So-
I'm not sure that you identified the proper party for the agreement, because I don't think that it's the Angel Fund that's entering into this agreement. I think it is the pantry. And if we have to make the pantry a 501c3, then we should do that. But the way this thing reads, you're obligating the Angel Fund when the relationship is really just with the food pantry. And we,
No, it's not.
well, but it is, Gail, because we moved the Angel Fund no longer has the same role, but it's still the food pantry that is providing the service. It's the food pantry that's renting the facility. It's, you don't see it that way?
I do not. First of all, the Angel Fund still has money designated for the food pantry. It exists, right? We still get donations for the food pantry.
If they
This
need,
board chose to fully fund the food pantry this
Right.
year. That's not gonna happen in the future, right? We cannot know that that's going to happen. We have, and I'm 98% sure it won't, because we won't have this kind of influx that we had from GA, right? When I'm talking about the 5 hours, I'm talking about the disbursement of emergency financial assistance, right?
understood, I get that.
And registering people, sure, for the food pantry, but that's it, right? It's not, while we're not currently expending money on the food pantry, it is still a mechanism for people to donate to the food pantry, and has been.
I just think it's clear if you separate out the food pantry from the Angel Fund. I mean, this gets back to, and we'll bring this up at the Angel Fund meetings, but this gets back to how the checks are written, who the checks are payable to. I mean, I think that you're better off in the long run to separate out the Angel Fund and the food pantry. And if the Angel Fund wants to give money to the food pantry, that's fine and dandy, but I think they're kind of woven together in such a way that it's not right. It doesn't read right to me. This was just, when I read it, my reaction was, it doesn't pass my smell test in terms of the division of priorities and the division of how the money works. So that's why, and I'm gonna push for this at the Angel Fund meeting. I think it should be a separate entity, and that the agreement should be with the pantry. I'm talking about the pantry being a separate entity, and that the agreement should be with the pantry and not with the Angel Fund. Because the Angel Fund encompasses a whole lot of other issues, and people contribute to the Angel Fund. And you're obligating the Angel Fund now to pay for the pantry services of $1,000.
No, we're paying for Jean and Larisha. That's what this is.
That's $1,000, not rent.
It was everything. It's the use of township services. We're not, no, not, oh, I think you're confused. This is township services. So our people, our infrastructure, our website, I think we put it out there and,
It's kind of what we did with GA. We figured out proportionally what services were going in the GA, we're figuring out what going to Angel.
Yeah, in consideration for the service fee provided by the Angel Fund, the township shall assist with certain administrative services and operating on behalf of the Angel Fund, which include printing, website hosting, email client server, mailing address, township staff time, requirement for assisting the Angel Fund matters. Angel Fund shall be solely responsible for donating processing, legal fees, directors of serious liability, bank fees, investment fees, and other fees related to or incurred by the Angel fee. It's not about the
That's-
Angel Fund doesn't operate the food pantry, right? Brian operates the food pantry, he's a township employee.
Okay,
The
You just-
Angel
you
Fund donates to the township's food pantry.
right, but you're making an agreement with the Angel Fund.
Right,
The agreement should be with the food pantry.
I completely disagree.
You'd be creating another level of bureaucracy, you'd be creating a bureaucratic
It's not
entity.
though,
No,
Elliot, when someone writes a check to the Angel Fund, and they want it to go to the food pantry,
Which is some of the donations. to the
Right,
Angel
they
Fund.
a good
designate it.
percentage of them.
Oh, a lot of them are Angel Fund donations, some are
Not
earmarked.
as many as food pantry though.
I'm sorry,
Not as many as food pantry.
Not
Many
as
people
many,
do
but a fair
designate it
amount.
for the food pantry.
Yeah.
and they write it out to the food
I
pantry, right?
went all the way back to when we first started our online donations. This is the issue. For the past 10 years, I have been designating either Angel Fund or food pantry. Some people are very specific about, I wanted to go to the food pantry. Some people are very specific about, I wanted to go to Angel Fund. The issue with combining the two is we then have to go out and separate what was spent in Angel Fund and what was spent in the food pantry, which is where we are right now.
Which they always should have been doing at the time, but they
Yeah.
weren't. And now we're separating them out. They were always designated food pantry or just the Angel Fund.
Yes.
But the Angel Fund is the entity, right? It's just
Correct.
some people are designating it for food.
So even those food pantry checks were going into the Angel Fund.
Cause it's one,
That's
it's a
the
nonprofit.
repository.
Yeah.
But those were specified for food pantry, I mean, those fund monies were used for food pantry.
But
Exactly.
did you give it to the food pantry?
It would be used to buy food. That's how they always had done it in the past.
But we designated all of the money to come out of GA, the food pantry this year. So my question
Right.
is, did those checks that were payable to the food pantry, were they given to the food pantry?
It hasn't been spent down yet, a lot of it.
Right.
Correct.
So I've
think
asked them to go through and
I
say,
know it's not the
what
language you're on.
percentage went up, right? But no, the entity is the Angel Fund. So any agreement is with the entity. There's no food pantry entity.
But the-
People make a donation to serve the basic needs of township residents, if that is financial or food. Some people would only like it to be food. For some, that's fine with me. That is part of nonprofit laws. You can designate to a particular project. So that's
Yeah,
what we do it.
But that's my point. If they say it's for the food pantry, are you giving it to the food pantry? Or
It
you
is
got an
being
account
spent
for it?
on the food pantry.
Mhm.
You do not need a separate account. You need to have a separate designation.
Yes. So it's all commingled in the Angel Fund, but we know what's supposed to go to the food pantry. Now we know.
Yeah. And for years, it was, we were spending $100,000 out of Angel Fund to the food pantry.
Which was prior to me. I'm just getting my arms around.
I think it's a separate entity. I really do.
Okay. Yes, Kate.
Page 2, section 5, Romanet 2.
Mhm.
I am a little bit nervous about the wording about, something has to be caused by willful and wanton conduct of the Angel Fund's employees, officers, blah, 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 blah. My question is, if it makes sense to change it to the township entities acting on behalf of the Angel Fund. My rationale is the Angel Fund does not have employees.
Right.
They're township employees. They're acting in their capacity for the Angel Fund. I wonder, does that make better sense?
To be honest, I think I would ask that the entire identification section go, because I don't understand why it would ever come into play.
I'm just looking at what's
Right.
in front of me, girl.
Right, so.
All right, so that being the case, all right, let me also ask, about section 6. if the Angel Fund maintains CGL? Are they required to? Like, I feel like that is a knowable fact.
They do
And,
not have CJ, they have,
So
now they
then-
have directors and,
right, they got DO, but like,
Yeah.
that's it.
Right.
So why are we playing in an if-then world? Like,
right, so
so who put in indemnification insurance?
it was part of the version given to us by the attorney.
Okay,
I would make a motion at this point that we table a vote on it tonight, clean it up.
Yeah.
And present it at the next meeting.
yeah, I've got notes,
Absolutely.
like some of this to Gail. Okay,
All those in favor, oh, sorry, I need a second.
second.
All those in favor of tabling, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Tabled. OMA training certificates, Kate?
Okay, so I need, actually, I shouldn't say it that way. In connection with the decennial committee's statutory and governmental compliance working group, committee. I am trying to locate OMA training certificates. We still need Elliot, Jan, and Jerome. And for FOIA officer training, we still need Jerome. If you have not already, please give those to Larisha.
No, we already had our discussion.
That's FOIA and OMA.
That's OMA training for Elliot, Jan, and Jerome, and
And
FOIA for Jerome.
Okay. MACI insurance renewal. So if you, like me, have always wondered what that number was on the GA fund budget and said, never spend this catastrophic hospitalization number, right? And there was always one that was hospitalization insurance, and then an absurd amount of money that we would put there for just in case we had a catastrophic claim on one of our GA clients. Well, and.
Is this the 29,000 we've got in there right now? Does that sound right? Fair.
I believe that sounds right. Yeah.
Hospitalization, yep, exactly.
Okay, so we are spending some of it.
Well, that's gotta be in this.
Oh,
That's gotta
okay.
be, yeah, because we shouldn't be. Because the point is that I think that is all a vestige of years gone by. Because now we've got Medicaid, we've got Medicare, we've got county care. So we should not be on the hook for any GA client's medical. Because by definition of our GA definitions overlap with all of those public organization definitions. I had Gene Check, we've never used it. Larisha, your research from the other administrators?
Yes, so I'm looking at my email. I sent out an email to the IATA group on May 1st. There's kind of a split between a lot of the township administrators. A lot of them are saying that they've never had a claim. Warren Township in particular said that it was mentioned in the Perspectives magazine, which is the copy that I gave you guys. That the statute states that even when a GA recipient is on Medicaid, the state is the payer of the last resort. Townships may still be held responsible for paying the medical expenses of GA clients, including those on Medicaid, but we have never had a claim. A lot of them are opting out of the Macy insurance. Recently, Macy was saying, okay, we're not, you know,
They did this to themselves.
we're not doing
essentially.
this anymore, so this brought up, you know, the hot topic in the administrator group, so everybody was like, oh my goodness, Macy's going away, who are we gonna go with? And that brought out the other conversations of, do we really need Macy? So,
Yeah, so they tried to disband essentially. We
Mhm.
all got notices saying your insurance is going away. And then we all freaked out and had these
Yeah.
conversations. And it turns out it was probably for the best.
mhm.
So the recommendation. would
So
be-
have we been paying for this 5,000 some odd a year?
Yep,
We did.
forever.
And nobody's ever made a claim?
Nobody's ever made it. It's kind of one of those insurances, we've gotten rid of a few of those insurances that we've either never had a claim for or don't need.
Or I felt was covered by Torn.
Was covered by Torma, so,
So,
cool.
yeah, so that's our recommendation. So, I would move that we not renew our Macy insurance.
I would second that.
Any additional discussion?
I just think when we had discussion, there's this legal principle that's in the back of all of our minds, that when you commit to an undertaking, that you're going to provide something remote and something, then you're potentially opening the door to exposure that you wouldn't otherwise legally be obligated for, so I don't wanna continue this undertaking.
Here today. So thankfully, there's a lot of tort immunities on giving away things, for instance, thankfully. But yes, I do agree, generally.
And did you say the other townships are moving in this direction as well?
It's kind of a split sometimes. Some of them will just spend the money just for the coverage, but a lot of them I see are moving away from it.
Mhm.
And they do put a good write-up about all of the insurances and stuff in the Perspectives magazine, so.
I know you all read cover to cover, it makes a good beach read. And because it's based on how many people are in your township, our rate was pretty high, even though our budget is pretty low. So we were paying more, I would say, per, budget dollar than everybody else, yeah.
I don't like to give up insurance if there is a potential claim out there. But I would like to know if we could perhaps self-insure or do something so that that isn't a hole.
So
Because
what would you say? Like put aside a rainy day fund type of thing?
something like that, yeah.
Yeah, nobody
what
gave
you
any
said.
recommendations for anything less expensive than Macy or anything that's.
Oh, wait, yeah, there
comparable
was
to Macy.
nothing, yeah.
No,
Yeah, you just mean in general.
Yeah.
Just have yeah. Doesn't seem like a good idea. Especially as we hit the budget process for next year. I think that would make a lot of sense. I'm also gonna be recommending that we start putting away money for other capital issues, so that might be something we can be thinking of those longer term buckets.
Thank you.
Any additional discussion? Seeing none. Although it's money, so let's go ahead and do our roll call.
Supervisor Eisenberg,
Yes.
trustee Cassell McNally,
Yes.
trustee Moser,
Yes.
trustee Robbins.
Yes.
Trustee Rubin.
Yes.
Great, and to be clear in the minutes, non-renewal. Okay, staff
Also, we
report,
may do self-insured portion.
that'll be come up in the budget, I get. Acknowledgement of staff reports, we have received staff reports from all of our staff members. Is there anything anyone would like to take from their reports for discussion?
At the risk of opening a bag of cats. I needed to figure something quickly. It was gonna be awful if we opened a bag of them. Under the building maintenance, in Larissa's report. Do we need a boiler?
No, that's why
No,
we're,
we have.
So we're-
foreseen.
Is it, can we get rid of
that's
the
the,
boiler?
yes, you are
Okay.
on the same page.
All right, I just want to make sure, because the last, so here's my rationale is even if the thing is off.
Oh, I was thinking, okay, discuss the actual getting rid of. Yeah,
Okay.
That's different.
So
Okay.
I did have somebody to come back out to do like some subsequent overlook of the building after the whole like building survey. They did, obviously gave us those pricing, so Gail and I were saying, let's hit the points of the stuff we need to do in between 1 and 3 years. They did come out and do that. I'm still waiting on them to give me the report to remove the mechanical unit off the side of the building. RH Wood did tell me it was gonna cost a ton to get the boiler out of that room. I will say that, I do not know how much yet, but I do have a quote, request out there for that from the building analysis people. Obviously, RH Wood is gonna cost us an arm and a leg if we have them do it. But they have been the ones servicing, but we do pay a yearly certificate and a yearly inspection on the boiler.
Yeah, and as we found out when the heat went dead, it didn't do anything to help, so. That was
Radiators
kind of
don't
our,
work even when the boiler is on,
Right.
and I think that was the reason for replacing it to force heat.
right, so that's how we learned, that it didn't do anything.
And if we do need to remove it, we would bid that out beyond our age limit, because there's some other.
Yes,
competitive-
Yeah,
but it may just be a large paperweight,
yeah.
depending on the cost. So,
It sits in its own room right now. It's pretty huge. I actually don't even know how they even got it in there, to be honest. The door was very narrow, but you know, contractors do their thing, but,
They assembled it in there.
yeah, they had to have. So, yeah, that's where we are with the boiler situation until our next fun project starts.
Additional discussion.
I'm more than happy to raise this with Jean,
Mhm.
but under the childcare scholarships, the fact that the Wilmette Park District didn't know that,
Oh,
you know, we exist. I feel like maybe she should reach out to the other park districts, which, you know, I know at least some of them are getting money.
That's a good point.
And I did see, like the combination of Jean's and Melanie's, that we were gonna be doing a, furniture
Mhm.
pickup.
Mhm.
Which I think is great that, you know, it's kind of the bottom of the resource roundup, of Jean's and, then the furniture drive with relation to the Chicago Furniture Bank,
Mhm.
that's noted in Melanie's. I wonder if, any of the resources, that Jean kind of mentioned would also, you know, be interested in doing that at some point. So that, you know, because there are always people that are looking to kind of offload furniture. You know, maybe a thing.
Yeah, and we've done this for the furniture bank one twice before, so we had that connection. We are gonna do also, I think she mentioned in her report about a clothing drive as well. But yeah, we'll continue. Yeah, we've got some
Yeah.
cool outreach events coming up. We're making goodies for intern this year. To set up some stuff throughout the summer, and on to, you know, going back to school.
She's really good and she's, worked on my project in the basement for separating that stuff. Now, whenever I can get down there, it would be great, but she has separated everything by admin, financial, and things like that. We're pretty much almost empty in the vaults, which is very good. And her and Melanie started a series, because, you know, obviously, we are always looking for people to know who we are, know our faces, know what we do here. What does your township do? So, they put out different things on social media explaining all of our different programs. Today it was general assistance, so, just,
So
you know,
share them, yep.
yeah, just putting more
We all
stuff
have
out
different
there.
networks, yeah. All right, anything else? Great. I believe we're now in line for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, we are adjourned at 8:51. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.